Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punatu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome to our last class. Let us do a quick summary of the whole book. Has anybody been in this class from day one? Like done the whole book? No one? Oh, Asha, you've done the whole book. Oh, great. Anyone else? Only
And
one person?
Janaki, I joined, I think, from day one, but I must have missed a few. That's why I'm not saying.
Okay. All right. Okay, so at least you have stayed this journey.
Yes.
I'm Janki ji, me.
We'll see. Yes. And
Some
Mahesh,
classes I missed, but I try to listen in the YouTube.
yeah. Okay, great. So at least a few people have had the staying power of finishing a book such as this. Wonderful.
Same here, Janki, because I have missed quite a few in between.
Ooh, I can't hear you. Is someone saying something?
Uttara.
What did you say, Uttara?
I said I had also begun with the first class, but then I have skipped, like missed quite a few.
Okay. Anyway, we stayed the whole journey. That is a wonderful thing. Raj, consciousness unknowingly get trapped in form and create subject and object duality. How can it be traced back to the source? Raj, by the three processes of spiritual growth, which is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Many people will answer this question for you in various ways, and there are many answers. But in principle, you have only a body, a mind, and an intellect, and you will have to direct these to the self. And this is called Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Now, the answer is pretty simple. It is executing all these things where the difficulty exists. So, how do you know what you know? How did we begin? We began by the preface, which told us the purpose of this book, which is that we have a whole bunch of stuff in our head, and we have to identify which of that stuff is useful for us and which is not. And that which is not useful, we need to discard, and that which is useful, we have to keep. Now, why should we undertake this process? Because our life is the direct consequence of our thoughts. We don't see this, unfortunately. So that's why the first chapter begins that rich people are rich because they think in that manner. And poor people are poor because they think in that manner. And engineers are engineers because that's the way they think. And my life is nothing but the gross manifestation, the physical manifestation of my abstract thoughts. Now, these thoughts are extremely powerful because they create the world. And having created the world, they then interpret the world. So you get caught in a loop from where there's no escape. You put your hand in the fire burns you. Now you have to interpret what just happened. And so you could interpret it as my stars are bad. So you go on putting your hand in the fire, keep on getting burned, keep on talking about the stars being bad, and you're in a loop of burning your hand out of which you never come. That's a very frightening thing. So therefore, it's very important that we examine these thoughts. These thoughts tell us, interpret to us what is happening. Why is it happening? And therefore, what am I going to do about it? If your interpretation is happening because God made it so, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Or otherwise go to the temple or church or mosque. So everything becomes this loop from which there is no escape. So let us examine it. So we started, if you remember. Where are these thoughts coming from? These thoughts are coming to us from two sources. One is an external source where we are influenced by the thoughts around us. What our parents say, what society says, what my friends say, what I see on YouTube, what I see on television, all of this is influencing it. And say influencing it, remember it's doing two things. It's making you think in a certain way and therefore execute a particular action, and it's making you interpret in a particular way. I don't know whether you know, today a very shocking thing has happened in Mumbai. I don't know how many of y'all know about it. On live, on FB Live, a man shot another. He called him for a meeting. It's between the corporators or wannabe corporators, and he shot the other gentleman and then shot himself. And it's all happening on FB Live. I mean, can you just think what must be going on in this person's head? What is he thinking is happening? This is the result. And it's happening all around the world. Some people think if I go to war, I will deal with whatever my problem is. And some people by shooting somebody, and somebody by, I don't know what else. So many thoughts, so many actions, so many interpretations. One place from where they come is from outside. Your friends tell you that he is the person troubling you, or it comes from inside. But you tend to see things in a particular way. All frightening stuff, we take it very lightly. That is all frightening stuff. Raj, when I'm conscious, action goes slow, but need fast movement in outer world. In this situation, when I'm totally involved in work, then I have doubts whether I'm conscious or not. How can I deal with this? Firstly, Raj, by focusing on what we are currently doing. What are we currently doing? We are understanding how our thoughts are influencing actions. So let's focus on this and understand this. The better I'm able to deal with my thoughts, the faster my movement will be correctly. Now also it is very fast, but not correctly. So focus. What are we doing now? We are studying about the influence of thoughts on our actions, both in creating them and in interpreting the results. Come from two sources. One is external, from the world. Somebody tells you something, you hear something, whatever, somebody says. Or internal. That means your own vasanas. In Vedanta, it's called Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is the total influences around us. And vasanas are your own vasanas. You tend to be a particular person. If you're a passive person, you think in a particular way. If you're an aggressive person, you think in a particular way. If you're a business person, you think in a particular way. So your vasanas will determine this. Okay? And there's all sorts of wrong ways for this to happen. What are those wrong ways? We won't get into now because it's just one where we're going to summarize this whole thing. In second chapter, said, okay, so let's start examining the thoughts. How do we know? So how will you examine them? We go and approach Indian epistemology because it tells us that we gain these things, we gain any knowledge from four sources. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, and Agami, 4 sources. What are they? Sense perception, inference, comparison, and authorities. 4 sources. So remember, we started with examining our perceptions. What are our perceptions? What you hear and smell and taste and touch and feel. Examine them. When you examine them, you find out that without these perceptions, you simply cannot transact with the world. It's not possible. They're very, very important. If you do not have contact with the world, you'll stay an idiot. Because that relationship with the world creates thoughts. If a child is tied up, there have been cases where a child has not been allowed exposure to the external world at all. They can't even walk. It's such a bad condition. It's very, very sad condition. Okay, so they're extremely important, these senses. However, they're prone to error. We studied all of them. The most simple one is, of course, the sun rises. We keep saying the sun rises. The sun is not rising, Baba. We see stars. Those stars are there or not, we don't know. We see a mirage. We don't know. When you're driving on a hot day, you'll see water on the road. It's so hot that if you threw water on the road, it will all evaporate. But yet what you see is water on that road. So the senses are extremely important and they mislead. So you have to have a way of knowing whether what your senses are showing are correct or not. And therefore we have the tests. Like, is it something you saw? Is it a report of somebody telling somebody, selling somebody? Have you made note of what you have seen? Raj, is entertainment a must for relaxation? Raj, where do your thoughts go? I really don't get. Let us focus on what we are doing. We are doing perceptions now. Is entertainment a must for relaxation? No, you can, depends on what your entertainment is. Your work can be your entertainment. Okay, come back, please. Focus on what we are doing. So first way is sense perception. Second way is inference. So we studied the 2 types of inferences. We did deductions, we did inductions, we did probability. We studied about making theories, generalizations. And I know that was a difficult chapter and many people just give during that chapter. But please go back and study it. It is important that you know the rules of thinking. And having learned the rules of thinking in chapter 3 about Anumana, then we went to Upamana, which threw all the rules out of the window. Because just as we have this capacity for logical and linear thinking, we have equally a capacity for non-logical, non-linear thinking, which means just imagination. And the wise people of the past have used this particular human capacity as a mode of communication. So it became one of the important ways of learning things. That's why in olden times, in Sanskrit also, the wise person is known as a kavi. Kavi means a poet. That means he seems to talk about things we don't understand. So we studied how through comparison, we can learn something. For instance, what story had we used? The hare and the tortoise, for instance. Okay, so the hare and the tortoise had a competition, and then the tortoise won. You know the story. Now, when you hear this story, you immediately understand many things. What all do you understand? You firstly understand that it has got nothing to do with either a hare or a tortoise. You understand this. You understand that no competition ever takes place between hares and tortoises. That doesn't happen. And you also understand that what it means is that the slow and steady win the race. That is what the author is trying to communicate. You get it. However, when it comes to religious literature, we just throw this out of the window. If anybody tells us anything, Rama built a bridge to Lanka, then we will go hunting for a bridge. They're not trying to tell us history. They're trying to tell us a concept. The monkeys helped Rama build the bridge. Yeah, sure. You take some monkeys and get them to build a bridge. Let's see you do it. So you have to understand what they're trying to talk about. Today in our building, all the monkeys have come. I don't know why monkeys come here. In the middle of Mumbai, monkeys. So they went into somebody's kitchen, opened the fridge door and took out food and started eating. These monkeys are also very smart. They know that they can open the fridge door and get food. Isn't that amazing? Now get these monkeys, collect all of them and try them to make a bridge with them. Can't be done, right? So it's communicating something. So you've got to understand. So if it doesn't seem like this is a possibility, you have to understand that the author is trying to communicate something else. Everything. What is he trying to communicate? What does virgin birth communicate? What does the angels talking to the prophet communicate? Figure out what are they trying to say? Are we supposed to take it literally? You have to ask the question. Are we supposed to take it literally? Or is it communicating something else? Ask. And once you get it, you begin to understand how, we did that particular Kolstomer story where Leo Tolstoy uses that horse to show us how absurd our human institutions are, especially that sense of possessiveness. Say, this is mine. Many people have second homes. They say, I have a second home. However, who looks after that home? The Mali. Who enjoys that home? The Mali. How often do you go there? Rarely. But it is still mine. So to show us the absurdity of all these things, he shows it through the eyes of a horse. So the horse has written the book, as it were. Now we're supposed to take it that the horse wrote the book. You immediately understand, right? That this is something else he's trying to show us. So this is how comparison teaches. Then we came to how authorities teach. Now, when it comes to authorities, it's very, very important that we are able to listen to an authority. It's because there is no way we can understand everything. So if another's intellect can understand it better than mine, I would be a fool to not use this if I have access to it. The important thing is identifying the authority correctly, identifying whether the authority is speaking on their topic or some other topic. Like Einstein telling us about God, not good enough. Surgeon General telling us whether abortion is immoral or not a subject. Surgeon General telling us whether it is okay for a particular woman to go through this abortion or not. Correct. So it depends on what is your field and whether you are an authority in that field. So we had all the tests. For all four, if you remember, we had tests. And these are important tests which you do in terms of the authority. Then you had understanding as authorities, even your equals and subordinates. You may be managing director of a firm, but the man who actually meets your customer is your salesman. So your salesman will have a lot of information which you don't have. You want to take it from. Many people as heads of institutions, they they just say, "Oh, I am the head, so whatever I say goes." Okay, whatever you say goes. You and your institution will go downhill because you're not able to take it from the authority, which in this case was the salesman. So many people advised all these people who failed. Hitler and all his people told him as much as they could possibly, don't do it. It's bad. It's a wrong decision to go into Russia. You know the story with our Sam Bagwell, right? When our prime minister said, go capture it, he said, I won't. I simply won't. And she has to listen to him. Now, he had the personality for it, maybe, and she had the, I don't know what, the willingness to listen. But the fact is that we won that only because we listened to him. Because he knows that job. Let him take the call. That is why you see, even here, we try to train ourselves. In the group discussion, the leader will take the call. If you're running a project, the coordinator will take the call. Because the person knows that they've been handling that. They know what they're doing. We are not supposed to go and interfere. You take decision in your field. So understanding who knows more than you when is a very important thing. Because only when we learn to work together in terms of our thinking can we do something spectacular. Because we understand cooperative endeavor as we working together. But we don't always understand cooperative endeavor as our thoughts together. Right? So this is the first part of the book. In fact, earlier, there was a lot of debate on whether we should just close the book over here. Should we have one book or two books? And if we're having one book, then we have to close it here and then start again. And then with great thing, we decided it will be one book. So then we went on to other aspects of thinking. If you remember, one is the role of, first was the role of
Experience.
experience. Very good. That was the first one. The role of experience. So what did we study? Do you remember?
Experience verifies. I mean, if it's not experience, the knowledge is not experience, then it's useless knowledge.
Okay, good. What else?
Sorry, was it that thoughts create experiences and the thoughts also interpret them?
Yes. What you learn from an experience, the two main ideas were what you learn from an experience is usually something you know already. Secondly, the only reason you learn anything from an experience is because you think about that experience. So you remember the famous quote in that a cat having sat on a hot stove will not sit on a hot stove again, but she will not sit on a coal stove either. Experience is meant for people who are incapable of learning without it. Remember, we did the different grades of intellect. The topmost intellect understands. Right, the rishis, they went in the Himalayas, they sought, they thought, they came to conclusions, they wrote it down, and well, here they wrote our Upanishads for us, no experiences. Then the rest of us can read them and try to understand what it's talking about. Like we do in class, that's what we do. We learn from a teacher so that, we will get the benefit of whatever their thinking was. So that's level 2. So first level, intuitive knowledge. I mean, they just know things. It's like scientists and all. They find things, they know things. Very, they're on their own in terms of gaining knowledge. Second type, they can learn from a teacher. Even in that, we study different distinctions. Third type,
The one that learns from experience.
yes, cannot learn from knowledge, so will have to go through their experience. One person can sit in their room and understand that money will not solve all their problems. One person can come to class and learn that and understand it. Some people will have to go and become billionaires and then understand it. And some people, no matter what experiences they go through, they will still not get it. 90% of us, 90% of the time, behave like this. Haven't you seen people, whatever their problems are, those problems always continue? This has been mentioned many times, but sometimes I go to places after many years, sometimes decades, I will revisit that place. And those people there are kind enough to remember and come to meet and all of that. And it's very touching. What's most surprising is whatever were the problems that I left them with 20 years ago are the same problems they greet me with 20 years later. It's an incredible. It's like day after day. Dinaya minyo sayam pratah shishira vasantau punarayata. Dinaya minyo, the day and the night. Dinaya minyo sayam pratah, morning and dusk. Shishira vasantau, the winter and the spring. Punarayata, comes again. Kala kridati, time is sporting. Kala kridati gachati ayuhu, life is passing. Tadapi na munchati ashavayu. Even then, the ashavayu, the gust of desire, will not go. Exactly where you always were. And 20 years have passed, not 1 or 2 days. Yes, you're complaining about those same problems for decades, never thinking that I have to reach a conclusion and move on one way or the other. Get on with it. It's quite frightening. Quite frightening. I'll use verses from Bhaja Govindam. They always come back. A beautiful poem. It comes back to you every now and then. Dinayaminyo sayam pratah shishirava punarayata kala kridati gachati ayuhu tadapi na munchati ashavayuhu. So go on and on and on because you just don't get it. So what is the use of experience? That in some cases, some people will learn from that experience. And the 3 other categories are not going to learn from it anymore. But even if you have to learn from it, learning anything is a matter of reflection. The more you think about it, the more you learn from it. Okay, then we went to virtue, the role of virtue. You remember the role of virtue? Virtue keeps the mind quiet, because of which the intellect works. That was the role of virtue. However, just by being good, it won't help. You have to also apply your intellect. Okay, so your mind is calm and your intellect is available, but please apply it. If you don't apply it, your virtue is not going to help you. You'll get into trouble. So many people, out of so many good intentions, do such nonsense in this world. I mean, in our own group over here, as many of you have seen, with the best of intentions, people do all sorts of good things, and then the rest of us are left handling the issue because it's all good intentions, but intellect has to be applied to it. Okay, so we came to virtue. Then we go to the next. What was the next?
Ma'am, just one question regarding the
Mhm.
experience thing. You said whatever we learn from experience is usually what we already know. And then you said the reason we have that experience because you think about that experience.
The reason how we learn from an experience. If the experience taught you anything, is because you thought about it.
Okay, then this is the knowledge part. We get, okay, that I did not understand earlier. Right. Thank you.
Right. Then we went to, after all this is said and done, comes our nature. And when nature comes into the picture, everything else goes out of the picture. Because all that you do is all subject to nature. Remember, we studied if you had a lot of sattva, you would look at the world in a particular way. If you had a lot of rajas, you look at it in a different way. Now, this highly sattvic and highly rajasic person sit down to have a discussion who is right. They'll froth at the mouth, but they will never come to any conclusion. It's not possible because the way you're looking at it is entirely dependent upon your nature, and so there will always be honest differences. You cannot claim that, oh, we are intellectual, so we will all agree. That never happens. I mean, if you look at the most intellectual fields, like maybe mathematics, they won't agree. I mean, either it's 2 plus 2 or it's not 2 plus 2. What is there not to agree? But they don't agree. I mean, on this they agree, but like as you go into higher maths, scientists don't agree. Two of the greatest scientists of the last era, Einstein and Niels Bohr, didn't agree. So your nature it will determine this. So all your debate and discussion is going to come to nothing. Don't waste your time. People keep telling me that Devuttara also told me, you should go and talk to people and then you'll convince them. No, I can't convince anybody. People either have a nature which is inclined towards this subject, or they don't have a nature inclined to this subject. And you can break your head on them. They simply will not agree. They're not capable of agreeing. And once you begin to figure that out, your blood pressure will not rise. Because there's no way you're not going to be able to convince them. Actually, it's usually what people do is they are preaching to the choir. You've heard the term preaching to the choir. Those people who already believe in it, they are listening to all the preaching. Now, the sad part is they've got so used to these words that it seems very comfortable. So finally, neither are the people who don't believe learning anything, nor are the people who believe learning anything. The madman's game. Because how do you move this thing forward? We rest contented thinking, oh, we are spiritual people. They rest contented thinking we are not spiritual people. And everyone continues in exactly the same way as they were before. To learn is a very different ballgame. And for that are the three principles of come on, that wasn't so far away. The 3 steps of learning.
Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasana.
Very good. Listening or reading, in other words, taking in information, reflecting on that information, manana, and nididhyasana, which is meditation, finding it in the quietude of that silence. So, taking in information is an art. It's not easy to take in information because you're always just hearing what you know. And that's why it's so difficult, right? Every time we stop in the class and say, okay, what was just said? It's almost like, was something said? Nobody can just simply repeat what was just said. It takes effort to do Shravan. Then comes Manana. We studied, I think, 12, 13 ways of doing Manana. And then comes Nididhyasana, the silence after you have thought. Allow knowledge to come to you. You're not running after it all the time. Just sit down and relax. Because eventually, total knowledge comes in absolute silence. When the last desire, the last thought has faded away, what you get is complete knowledge. Because eventually you begin to understand that as long as there is a thought, you are going to see the world through the lens of that thought. And as long as you're seeing it through a lens, there's no way you're going to see the truth. There's always a filtration going on. So you never know the truth. And then finally, when that last thought is not there, there is not you knowing the truth. There is the truth, which is you and everything else. That's the reality. That's the truth. That is the state of self-realization or moksha. And that is where really the book ends. That's the right place for the book to end. Yeah, Deepraj.
Which is you and everything else basically means which is you, right?
Yes.
Because everything else is you.
Yes, it's all the same. It's one homogeneous mass of consciousness. Rahul Roy reminds me of Kantian transcendental idealism. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but idealism is not Vedanta at all, because idealism believes that our mind creates our world. And Vedanta doesn't take it in that sense. Idealism almost negates an actual world. But Vedanta has a slightly different stance on this. The individual and the world is given equal importance. The individual and the world disappear simultaneously. So it's slightly different, but I've not studied Kantian that much, so I won't go there. All right, so now that you studied all of this and you learned so much about your thoughts, what do you need to do?
You need to act.
You need to act. Very good. Because you can't get lost in all the thinking. Remember, the thinking was meant in the first place to choose action properly. That's what it's meant for. So if the action is not done, the thinking becomes sort of futile. Remember, your thinking determines your action, which determines your life. Now you're thinking and thinking and thinking. No action is done. And life is still zero. So what was the point of this? To make our lives so much better. Think properly. And so we ended on a very positive note of action. It's saying if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. So get down to action. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. Get down to it. Now, we have 20 minutes more. So if you have any questions on this chapter, we can take it up now. Next class, you will have small GD so that you have some opportunity to discuss these ideas amongst yourself. And then the class after that, we could maybe have a big GD if you feel it's required. So do you all have any questions on this so far? I mean, so far means if you don't have it so far, then you won't have it at all. Any questions?
The point about virtue and knowledge was that when we are virtuous, it gives us fertile land to develop our intellect. That was the point.
When the mind is calm, the intellect can think. Suppose I agitate you now. Like, for instance, I tell you that, oh, there is a horrible thing happening outside your house, or something like that. All the terrorists have gathered over there. Then I try to make you study what happened, right? So that's why in every classroom, it's all cool, it's calm, so the mind is available. You go to an interview, you can't answer questions because mind is agitated. So the more it is calm, the more the intellect has the capacity to operate. But still, it has to apply itself. If you're just like very calm and you leave it at that, and say, okay, in my calmness, I agree to everything, and you let your intellect go to sleep, then that won't work. So the intellect arises when your mind is calm, but the effort in you makes you use it.
And the effort will further calm the mind.
Yes. Even in karma, that's what we do, that we have to achieve this target. Right? So once you are focused like that, and you start disciplining yourself, then you find this amazing thing. I mean, that day, I think Uttara and I were discussing it. Everybody is busy with their own life, right? You're writing a PhD thesis, Taruna has a job. Everyone is doing their own things. Then where are you people finding time to do all the karma yoga? Because the more and more you discipline, the more time arrives more time arrives because mind is calm, and because you're thinking, you're not doing so much waste of time. I mean, repetitious actions and correcting all the mistakes you've made, all that sort of thing. So you become extremely efficient. So when as you work for higher ideals, time develops, means you become more efficient.
Got it. Thank you.
Rahul Roy. Are not all sources of knowledge is error prone? Yes, that's correct. Every single thought you have is incorrect. If yes, how can we know anything with certainty at all? You cannot know anything with certainty at all. What you can do is think about it as best you can and perform the relevant action. And as you think and act and learn and act and think and act, you come closer and closer to the truth. Eventually, the truth comes only after all desires are gone. Is that okay, Rahul? We cannot know anything with certainty. But in life, you have to perform an action. And hence, you can only do the best you can. And accept that other people are doing the best they can. What else can you do here? So, if you all don't have any further questions, let us do the last verse that this book ends with. Na tadasti prithvivyam va divi deveshu va kvachit. Purushena prayatnena yatnena apnoti gunanvita. I know it's got all the sandhis and samases, but if you break it up, it's a very easy verse. Na tad asti. Na tad asti. There is not. Pruthivyam va divi deveshu. On this earth, Pruthivyam divi deveshu, or the gods in the heaven. Vakvachit, or anywhere. Paurushena. Paurushena means Paurusham, with effort. Prayatnena. With Paurushena means with that intent. Paurushena is that intent of effort. And Prayatnana is constant practice. Yatna na apnoti. Yat na apnoti. Gunanvita. Gunanvitaha. Vitaha means one who has. So what does he have? Gunas. So if a person with good gunas, with good qualities, good person, in other words, meaning you're working for a noble cause. Paurushena prayatnena. There is nothing that he cannot obtain with that adventurous spirit and with constant practice in this world or in the heavens above. Sheer human effort. Whatever you want to do in this world, you are going to be able to do. You just have to put yourself behind it. This is from Yoga Vashishta. All the best, dear reader. It has been a great journey. Here's to the life of your dreams. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. May all be happy. The whole point of this whole exercise is so that everybody at the end of it finds a satisfying, productive life and actually lives that happy life. You cannot just be saying, oh, I'm studying Vedanta, and then you're not full of cheer. How can that be even possible? Every bit of life should be fun and entertaining, and even your problem should be something that you look forward with great enthusiasm, because you understand that. You understand it's part of the journey, and if there was no problems, this journey would be very boring. Suppose, we wanted to build a university. Somebody came and gave us the whole money. Then we got an architect, he built it, we went to the government, they gave us the permission, and the university started. We'd be bored stiff. So why did we take on this project? So boring. But now, where is the money coming from? We don't know. Somehow you struggle, all of us, and we managed to collect the money to buy a plot of land. We found a plot of land which was within the money we had. So now shall we buy it? No, you can't buy it. Why can't you buy it? A million problems. A million of them. And then you work your way out and you say, oh, very, very close, okay? You did the title check and you found out that from the collector's office that, yes, it's likely that you can get this permission, this, that, you did so many things. And you said, okay, the title check is clear and now we can just buy the land. Oh, no, because we did the architectural search. And the architect came back and said, this plot is recommended not to be purchased. What? After all this hard work there? And it's within our budget, it's a clear title, the lawyers have okayed it. And now the architect said, no, you can't build anything on this if you buy it. What? All those months of effort down the drain? And such a pretty plot. Mahesh, you like the plot, no?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Everybody liked the plot. Everyone says, Pranesh said this is the best plot we have seen. And luckily it was cheap and affordable for us. But now the architect said this. Then what? Now will we cancel everything and go back to the drawing board? Say, okay, let's get another type of architect, and see what he has to say. And like that, it's a major soap opera. Every day you should come here and see major soap opera. It's like every day you have to end the day thinking, अब देखते हैं कल क्या होगा.
Like life.
Yes, absolutely. So this other architect told us that okay, it seems all right, but we can do a contour search and we'll know for certain. So we said okay. Then the owner said, no way, I'm not going to let you do any contour search on my land. First you pay me, then you people, you've been saying I'm buying, y'all are not paying me. And you want to do this, you want to do that. We will not allow contour search to take place. Okay. All right, come back to the board. And all interesting stuff, right? Live a very exciting life over here. But the fact is that if all this didn't happen, now what will I have to tell you? You will ask me, is the plot bought? Yes. Has the architect done? Yes. Then it's so boring. It's just going on. Now every class I can come and tell you a new story. So the moment you're able to understand that all this is just part of the game, you're expecting all this to take place. People will join, people will leave. Sometimes people leave us in a lurch, They're handling something and then suddenly they disappear. So now what happens to all the things I've handled? Gone into thin air. So you have to start, taking out the strings again, finding out what is happening. And that keeps the interest going. So as long as you have that enthusiasm to reach somewhere and you appreciate that there will be problems and those problems are fun, just continue. There's nothing you cannot achieve in this world if you set yourself that target and you work for it. Just keep working. Put your head down and keep working. Now, is your work going to be correct? Depends on how well you have trained yourself so far. And as you work, you will learn on the job. Because nobody has landed on planet Earth knowing everything. We came here and learned everything, right? And so as we live further, we learn more things. Simple. So that's it for the book. And next time, thank you, Bharat. So next time, you all want to